owner, I want to share the Sygmoid Curve
Okay.
with you. And this is sort of the life cycle
Sure.
of a business, but it's a life cycle of many, many things, right? So we call it the Sygmoid Curve, and it's cycles and phases. All right, and so what you see here on the screen is there's three different sections. So there's really three different phases to the Sygmoid Curve. And then the curve, obviously, is that curvy line that's in there. Now, that first phase is called the learning phase. The learning phase is sort of where you're at right now. You're deciding, who are your partners going to be, and what is the package I'm going to have, and who's my market, and how do I become aware, right? Well, there's a lot of learning and growth and not nearly as much revenue that happens in that particular phase. That's typically what happens. And you have to make a big investment of time and energy, and sometimes money. And you'll notice that the shape of the business is declining at that point. That's that investment part, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is we then, after we've done that, we go move into this thing called the growth phase. Now, this is the fun phase, right? This is the part where we're moving this business and growing it. And then the last phase then is the decline phase, because everything declines. So this is the kind of the phases of life, the phases of business, the phases of whatever. Now, there's a few different areas in each one of these stages that we need to be aware of, right? So the first one is what we call the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is at the very beginning of the learning phase, and this is sort of the way I describe this is, you got a new idea, you got a new product, new services, and you reach out to your friends and you reach out to your neighbors, right? And they decide to buy it, right? And so you generate some revenue, you generate some cash, and the key here is to take that and store it away to handle this downturn that's happening, right? Because eventually, you've sold to your friends and you've sold to your family, and you have to start building a business and you have to sell it to the marketplace.
Got it.
Right? And so we need that cash to be able to run through the next learning phase so that we can get to the next place. The next one is 3 feet from gold, and this is one where we see business owner after business owner after business owner give up and switch and try a new idea and switch and try a new idea. And what happens is they never figure it out. They never get there, and they might be very, very close, right? If you've got a good idea and a good product and a good service and you've tested it and you've got feedback that you like, it's really all about spending the time and energy and figuring out how to get it done, right? And if you quit and you try starting something else, you're right back in that learning phase again, and you never get there. But once you get through that 3 feet from gold, once you break through that thing and you start generating some revenue, consistent revenue, right? Now we've got a little line up, right? We've got money coming in. This is where we see a lot of small business owners. They're in this thing called the founder's trap. The founder's trap is that place where, you're time constrained. You don't have enough time to do anything. You hire a couple of people, but you only have enough time to manage 3 or 4 or 5 people or whatever that particular staff is. And you're stuck, right? You can't even take on any more clients. You cannot take any more business because you don't have time to service that. And what you have to do here is you have to learn how to scale. And when you learn how to scale, then you are building systems and processes that allow you to, add people, add resources. Technology plays a really big role in here. Training models, policies, standards, procedures all play really big roles in moving out of the founder's trap and then up the growth phase, right? So now once we start growing, we're doing really, really well. We're making some money. We just have to be aware of the Midas trap, right? The Midas trap, everything you touch turns to gold. Well, yeah, still got to pay attention to the marketplace. You still kind of have to look around. You kind of have to see things so you don't get surprised. My least favorite story of this is BlackBerry phones, right? They were on top of the world just 5 years ago, and now they have, I don't even know, such a tiny market share. It's amazing.
Yes.
They just got smacked. And they never saw it coming, and they've paid the price. All right, so then we have the decline phase, and the key to the decline phase we got to make sure of is that we're not in denial. So with BlackBerry, the BlackBerry story, right? They saw Apple and Samsung and all these others starting to make inroads into their business, but they didn't do anything about it, right? They were in denial. Like, it's no big deal, because the drop off in their business didn't happen instantaneously. It happened with slowly decreases in sales, and so they weren't able to figure out. They didn't get out of the denial trap. I think they're out of the denial trap now. They recognize it, but
they might be out of business. I don't know.
Well, they're still there, but they've paid a really, really steep price. So the thing is, once we see this start happening, right, we have to say, look, this is actually the opportunity phase. This is when we want to reinvent. This is an opportunity to get where we want to go and get to the next particular stage, right? So in your particular case, you're strongly in that learning phase, right? I mean, that's where you're at. And so let's talk a little bit about where you're at on this business curve. We kind of talked about that already because you're at that learning stage. But let's talk a little bit about what are the things that you need to do or that you can do to accelerate and get out of that learning phase as quickly as possible, because those curves, the width, the height, and everything else, they're all shiftable, right? So think about, for you, what are the kinds of things that would allow you to, what are the things that you have to do first for your business, and how do we get out of that learning phase faster?